Welcome to the Ascended Thread podcast, higher guidance woven into everyday life and healing. I'm Andrea Clem, owner of The Way Home to You.
And I'm Dana Swaza with One Thread Healing.
And today we're going to talk about stepping into your power and what that means and how we can do that more easily.
Yes, and kind of, whoops, sorry, and kind of talking about, navigating and paying attention to what gives us our energy and what consistently drains it. It's almost like, I don't know, I'm like, it's almost like comes from our soul as to what, like, we should be doing or not doing, or, kind of what we're passionate about. Because if it drains us, then, and it doesn't feel good, then we probably shouldn't be doing it.
Agree. And I think there's lots of things in life that we do, whether it's through obligation or um, things so people like us. Lots of different reasons we do things that don't really honor ourselves. And as we do that, I think we slowly give our power away. And, you know, make it hard sometimes to even trust ourselves if we're not really doing what's most important and what's best for us.
Right.
It's really important. And, sometimes I think stepping into your power, it sounds like, oh, I need to be this, I need to do all these things, but that's not what we're talking about today. I think it's more really starting to get quiet and listen to our inner voice, listen to that guidance, and even what our body is telling us at the moment, and
Mhm.
then moving from there, before making that decision or saying yes and things like that.
Right, right, right. Yeah, because our soul is always communicating with us. It doesn't speak in words, but it does speak in through feelings, inspiration, enthusiasm, peace, curiosity, and energy, right? Because if we find we're doing something, and then we're like, oh God, I'm dragging my body along, maybe that's something you shouldn't be doing because it's draining your energy.
Well, absolutely. And I think if you asked me, 10 years ago, like, how does my soul sound or how does my intuition sound? I don't know that I could have answered that.
Right,
It's
right.
taken a lot of time and it's taken me to get into my body because I feel like for a long time, I wasn't. I was always in the head and using that for everything. But
Mhm.
when I started to step back into my body and notice the sensations, notice the feelings, notice my energy, that's when I became more knowledgeable about myself.
Right, exactly, exactly. And even if the work is something challenging, as long as, we still have a sense of like, oh, I'm inspired to get this project done, then like it's something you should be doing, even if it's challenging. But if it's something like, oh God, I dread this, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the questions I was thinking is like, what does your inner guidance or your soul, what does it even sound like? So, and I think that's a good question. Maybe those that don't know yet.
Right, right,
And for me, it was subtle feelings maybe in my body. Maybe if somebody asked me to do something, but I really have that pit in my stomach, just something saying, oh, you don't really want to do that. Um, Actually giving that, paying attention to it and maybe
Mhm.
making a different decision instead of people pleasing me, jumping in and saying, oh, yeah, let's do that. Because afterwards, or when the time comes, then that feeling comes again like, oh, I really don't want to be here, or I don't want.
Right.
And then it just separates me from myself a little bit more over time.
Mhm.
So I think it could be feelings that we feel in our body in different spaces, sometimes the stomach or um, even the heart. And like you said, it could be energy, especially when we're there. I think that's another great thing is when you're around people, how do the people really make you feel? And noticing that over
Right.
again, because if somebody makes you feel not good, or drained, or something like that, you really should consider, do I want this person to be my friend? Do I want to hang around this person? Because if it's not a positive, if you're not really filling up because of the interaction, then that might not be what you need.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, I feel like those energetic responses are like breadcrumbs from your soul. So,
Mhm.
like each moment of joy, inspiration, or curiosity, is gently pointing you to your greater alignment with your authentic path. Yeah.
And I love that, breadcrumbs from your soul.
Yeah.
That's a great thing, and I love it. Um, and I noticed something that I do, even when I feel like have an inner knowing, I still sometimes look on the outside for validation. And I don't
Oh, yeah, we all
lie.
do
I
it.
want somebody to be like, oh yes, that's right. Um, you know, but nobody knows better in reality than you.
Mhm.
It
Right.
is we are feeling those things in that moment. We are having the experiences, and nobody from the outside can really feel it or understand it and know what's best for you at the moment.
Right, right. Yeah, and how many times have we told clients and or our kids like, don't listen, you don't need their validation. You're supposed to like be your own guide. You're supposed to have that own validation as long as what you think is, that's the most important. But yeah, like you said, but there's times we slip into that sometimes too, where it's like, oh, I tell all my students and my kids this all the time. Why am I not listening to myself?
Yeah, I do that all the time. If only I'd listened to all this great wisdom I have inside.
Right.
Follow it too. But that's part of being human, I think.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I think if we start to notice what are the things that light us up, that's can be, you know, a trail onto what kind of things do I enjoy? Yeah, what lights me up? What, like you said, joy, curiosity, all of those feelings. And even like, what can I get lost in? What kind of activities can I just lose track of time and everything going on, but just fully enjoy? That's the kind of stuff we want to incorporate in our life, incorporate more of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, right. And even things that I think you and I were talking about this the other day. We might have things too that we actually do enjoy and have fun with and have done it for a while, but sometimes we even need a little break from those things because otherwise we kind of get, I don't know, bored or just feeling like, oh, I gotta do this again. So sometimes it's just maybe even a matter of just taking a little break from it, and going back to it. But I know we were talking about something in particular that you and I do that like we were like, oh, maybe I need a break from that.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're right. Even the things that we think are that we enjoy and are good at for us at maybe at a particular moment in time, it's not what you need.
Right,
And I think the more that we begin to listen to ourselves and then take that break when needed,
right.
it's so important because our body is trying to communicate to us all the time when we're doing too many things, all that kind of stuff. And I know, at least for myself, I won't speak for everybody. A lot of times I push that away, but there comes a time that the body's going to react and it's saying, oh, you're not going to take this break. You're not going to listen. Well, I'm going to make sure you do.
Exactly.
That could be illness or, and
Right.
all different kinds of things it can manifest in. But I think our bodies will force us to stop and force us to make that break if we don't. So it is really important to do.
Exactly, because like we said, our body is our signal, and when we continue to push through fatigue or tension or overwhelm or even emotional exhaustion, yeah, the body, well, it'll give us. gentle invitations to slow down and reflect, but then but then when we continually ignore these messages, sometimes it has a way of shouting at us, like you said, with burnout or illness or even unexpected setbacks, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you could even like lose a job or something and it's like, oh, why did, but it's like, okay, you're not listening, so I'm going to make this happen. And then because you really need to do this and start like reflecting because maybe you're meant to be doing something else, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, I think in society we're always go, go, go. And so that's how we feel like we have to, but we do need that break. And I even kind of believe my injury last year when I fell and tore my ACL and had surgery, I think in a way that was my body and the universe saying, you need to take this break. And,
Right,
and I definitely got one when that happened. And I don't want to ignore it again. So something like that happens. Uh,
right,
but I was busy trying to do two businesses, do all these things, and then it happened. So
right,
and it can manifest in so many different ways. So
right. Yeah. Whereas like those experiences like your ACL injury. It's not punishment, but it is a powerful reminder to, honor yourself and your needs and restore balance. And yeah, so I do feel like I agree. I feel like those kind of things happen for a reason. And I always tell people this, and I don't think I truly stood it at the beginning until I'm really understanding it. Like, things happen for us, not to us, and I know, sometimes those things can feel like, why does this always happen to me? But it's really happening for you. And once you're outside of it, when you're in the heat of it, you might not notice it. But once you're outside of it, you're like, oh yeah, I get it. That was for me. And because you might step into something greater or, because you've had time to reflect and get
yeah,
back into balance. And yeah.
absolutely. You can see all the different ways people show up for you, all different kind of things that you can get.
Hmm.
And thank you for saying, I think this is very important. It's not punishment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that is important because I know when that happened to me, I was feeling very down. Oh my gosh, why me? Why is this happening? But it's probably because I wasn't listening to the body and to all the signs up into that. And
Hmm.
so that's again why it's so critical so we don't have something major happen.
Right. And you can have that moment of which word, because we don't want to stuff away or stuff down those feelings or push them away because otherwise they're just going to come up again in another way. But it is that time to reflect and be like, okay, what's this showing me? And and whether you're having anger or frustration or even a little victimness, have that feeling and work with it and push, work through it and then release it and, and then move on because then that's when you open up new potential or new gifts or, but you don't want to stuff it down, but and you don't want to get stuck in victimhood either.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and that's why I think, well, listening to, but also taking time to rest as a regular part of your routine, because
Hmm.
we need rest. We need rest physically, right? But I also need it emotionally, mentally, all those different things. And I think a lot of us do not take that time to really rest. And that doesn't mean going to sleep. I'm not talking about that kind of rest, but we can be drained in so many different ways that if you don't just take some quiet time, and it can look like so many different things for different people, but finding something for yourself that nourishes your soul again,
Right.
right? Nourishes the body. Whether it could be meditation, it could be, walking out in nature, it could be so many different things, but it can be like a reset button. And
Hmm.
when our computer doesn't work, a lot of times we have to force that shut down so that it can restart, and we need to do the same thing for us too.
Mhm. Yeah, yes, yes. And there's been many times where I felt like, just so much frustration and anger and, whatever energy, like all kinds of feelings all at once. And you're right. Sometimes it's just a matter of me going and taking a walk out in nature and coming back. And then I feel like such a different person. I'm just like, ah.
Yeah. Yes. So that's critical. Um, and it can change like physiologically,
Mm,
um, when we take that rest, it can change so much. Like you said, just your outlook, your total outlook can change. How we feel in the body can change. Those emotions can subside. Um, so being proactive and doing that can help, I think, probably every day be better.
mhm.
I was actually talking about this subject a little bit to my therapist as well, because going back to a little bit of a people pleaser me and signing up for things and saying yes to things that might not feel good. And I know that's a part of me that's trying to do its job to make sure I'm liked and all those kind of things, but it forgets to look at myself as well. So one of the things we were talking about is like, so that people pleasing me, and then the person that's like, no, I don't want to do this. If only they could talk first before I make the decisions or say the yes. And I know there's things also that I just have to do. We have to go to work. We have to do this, do that in the regular world. And there's plenty that we might not like, but we can put our best foot forward, I guess, take lots of rest, and then slowly try to explore maybe something that's a better fit, something that might fill us up and fill our cup up more.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's a
Yeah,
balance.
'cause that people pleaser thing can, yeah, really cause us some disruption, especially when it's, we're going against our grain, basically, just to make someone else happy. Yeah, and then I don't know. Sometimes I find as I'm driving somewhere to do something I committed to and I didn't really want to do it, I'm just like, why did I agree to this? Darn it.
Yep. Yeah, I think a lot of us do that. So,
And
but
yeah, and then I find out I'm beating myself up, and it's like, oh my gosh, if you would have just like listened to yourself in the first place, you wouldn't be doing all this, or
Mhm.
feeling all this way, or feeling all this like,
So maybe it's a good time to come back to, because we've talked about a lot of not listening to ourselves, but what does it like for you? Is there something that you do to listen to yourself, to honor yourself, or how do you even get in touch with your higher self?
Well, I think just maybe the more we honor those energetic signals, I think the more we then learn to walk in partnership with our soul. Rather than against it. And then I just think like life begins to flow with greater ease, and synchronicity and purpose and joy. And, I use the example. I mean, just I got I did work with a spiritual coach for a while, and she always talks about the green light flow, the green light flow. And it's so true because like, here, I was looking at, just going to look at houses just in case someday um we decided to move. It wasn't anything we were looking to do. And then it just all happened like, oh, a friend doesn't even have it on the market, but they're like, come look at it, and then as soon as you walk in, you're like, wow, this feels like home. And then you make an offer and they accept. And before you know it, you're closing. And it's like, wow, that just happened so fast and with no problem, And to
Yeah.
me, that's like green light flow. That's like your higher self working with you. And it's just, but when you're like, let's say the opposite was happening, like, oh, I can't find anything, or this happened, or you're like in tough negotiations, or, you have to go out of contract. That means it's not in green light flow. And your soul, your higher self's telling you that.
Mhm.
That's an example I can give of what like green light flow is, which is basically you working with your higher self, basically.
I love that.
Does
I
that make sense?
It makes total sense. And it made me think, I think it's something Abraham Hicks says, but it's kind of like the flow made me think of this going down the stream. So if you're trying to swim upstream or go against it, it's so hard and you're not getting anywhere and it's difficult. But if you could just relax and let the water take you,
Hmm.
that's what flow is like, right? It's just
Right, right.
I'm not fighting. I'm not working so hard and against all these things to make something happen. It's just with ease and grace.
Right.
I think,
And paying attention to when you are getting those like constant roadblocks put in front of you for whatever situation it is. When you get this, it's like, okay, start paying attention, like, okay, higher self, I get it. You're telling me like maybe I shouldn't be doing this, because sometimes if you force your way through it and make it happen, then that's when, it's like, oh, you're not happy with the end results, you're like, I shouldn't even have done this. Why did I push so hard for this? Because I really dislike it or whatever, or this is a horrible situation.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
really just paying attention. I guess that's step one, right? Paying attention.
Right.
How do I
Right.
feel in the moment? How do I feel with these people? How do I feel at this in this situation? Both emotionally, physically, all of those things.
Hmm.
And then,
Just paying attention to the feelings in your body and yeah, exactly. All those little hidden signals. I think
yes.
that's just where people yeah, because I know I have a friend who's like, I'm not even aware. I'm not even, and I'm like, just start listening to your body and, what's your body saying? Or, what's your feeling saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
have any other tips for them?
Well, let's see, because I did write some notes.
Okay.
Um, for me, one thing I think is rest is really, and
Mhm.
I know I already said that, but I think that's really important because we don't stop many of the time and rest because, and it doesn't mean like I said, it doesn't mean taking a bubble bath, though that's fabulous and I love it. But
And sometimes we do need those
yes,
self-care
yes,
things.
yes,
Yeah.
don't want to poo-poo that either. But it could also be like setting a boundary and saying, no, I'm not going to do this on these nights, or I just can't do this for you anymore, different things, and asking for help too.
Hmm.
That is important, a part of rest too, because we can't do everything, even though we feel like I might be the only person that can do this right. But
Oh, yeah. We can
all
all get into that for sure.
absolutely, but sometimes it's asking for help and things like that. What else? Uh, just another thing along with the rest is try not to feel guilty about it
Hmm.
because I think that's a feeling that comes along with it a lot, which leads us not to rest. But if we could take a little bit of time, and it doesn't have to be a lot, it can really change everything. Um, and another thing is like when we ignore our needs, and maybe if you're watching, ask this question like, what are some times when I did ignore my needs or what I really knew deep down inside? And then what happens? And you could start to see the correlation.
Hmm.
And
Right.
you could be like, oh, okay. And so then maybe you'll notice that feeling next time or that nagging voice that's saying, oh, I really don't want to do this. And I guess at the same time, even if you commit to something, I guess you can always say no after the fact too.
Right.
And I think the more we do these little things where we listen to that voice, we listen to that inner knowing and honor it, we build that trust with ourselves. And that slowly starts to change um, just that inner landscape and will help put you more into the flow.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because there have been a couple of times I have ignored my, inner guidance. And so there were a couple such situations that people could say happened to me, but happened for me where I was like, oh, I knew I should have listened.
Yeah.
I knew I should have listened. And now this happened or that happened. But then it's like, okay, I get it. This happened for me because it's reminding me that I really need to start listening to those messages or those thoughts. It's not, it doesn't have to be a clear, like, like you hear a voice, telling you to do something. It could be just a thought that pops in and you ignore it, and then something happens and you're like, oh, I knew I should have paid attention to that thought.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the positive thing out of that is it really shows that you have that intuition.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
It's a sign after the fact that you're like, oh, I should have listened. But if you can think of all of those, you're like, oh, yeah, my intuition actually is pretty good.
Right.
I just need to listen to it.
Right. And again, that's when you're paying attention to those more that you're more in flow. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I think it is also important when we hear those voices, maybe to sometimes to ask the question like, does this sound more like a fear, something that's coming up because of fear, or is
Right.
it my
Right. Right.
desire? Because sometimes all those different voices we hear can be hard to discern where it's coming from.
Hmm.
Because I do think our soul, it talks gently. It's not all these negative things are hounding you, or I think that's more of a fear. What are the, all these negative things that are going to happen? And yes, our higher self can probably save us from negative things happening to us, but I don't think it's going to come at us like in a negative way.
Right. Right. Right.
Can't really describe what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say well, I don't think. But I think there is a difference between those voices and it's again listening and discerning
Hmm.
more.
Yeah.
Um, and like noticing, just again, noticing what lights us up, doing more of that. What is it like? Think about when you were a child and all the, that joy, that happiness, all those things you would have loved, you love to do, and just incorporating more of that into your life.
Right. Right.
I did.
You.
Oh, go ahead. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I sorry. Yeah. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say that I actually did write some questions to maybe also consider to help.
Yeah. That's what I was just going to ask you. Like, do you have any in thoughts of like to ask people? Yeah. To ask people to reflect on. Yeah.
Perfect. So one of the questions was like, well, one, what is lighting you up right now in life? Okay, so figuring those out and doing more of those things. Sometimes, what am I being called to release? And that's looking at the negative, like not negative things, but the things that feel draining, the things that just don't feel very good right now. Maybe it's time to release those, whether it's for a season or for forever. Um, and where am I forcing and not flowing again? Where am I forcing something? Because that's probably where you're not aligned.
Hmm.
And that doesn't mean necessarily with all these things that you have to walk away, but maybe there's a different way to do that or a different way to be with somebody. One a really good one is like if you fully trusted yourself, what would you do differently? Whether that's fully trusting yourself, whether that if I had no limitations, monetary, all those kind of things, but what would I be doing? And when you start to think about those kind of things, that's probably what lights you up,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And so just what's my body trying to tell me today? Because I really
Hmm.
think paying attention to our body uh, physically, the feelings inside of it, all of it is so key
Hmm.
because it tells us so much. And I know for me, I spent so much of my life not paying attention to that um, until it really became too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else that
I don't think so. I think this was a good conversation
yeah,
for something that we were just like, okay, let's, it was a thought last minute, and we're like, let's just w wing it and go through it, and here we are. I think it was a great conversation, and
so
it gives everyone a lot to reflect on.
it does. So I hope everybody that's listening does take a moment and to assess what's going
Mhm.
big picture, little things in their lives, all things, and start to do things that honor them a little bit more. I do have a closing thought that I wrote down too.
Okay.
But before, we will be back in a couple weeks with a guest, and to make sure to like and subscribe as well.
Right, right,
This is our closing thought for today. We often think stepping into our power means doing more, pushing harder, or achieving bigger things. Sometimes true power looks like honoring our limits, trusting our inner guidance, choosing what nourishes us, and having the courage to rest when rest is needed. So I hope you got a little gem to
Mhm.
take with you out of that, because I think everything we do to honor ourselves um, just continues to build that relationship with the self, which is really the most important relationship we have.
Right. Exactly.
Yep. All
Yeah.
right.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. And yes, we'll see you in a couple of weeks with our guest speaker.
Yes, we will. So
All right.
everybody take care.
All
Thanks.
right. Bye.
Bye.